When's the last time you sit down to work and you actually got things done? No distraction, no phone, no email, just pure focus. I'm Spanky Gibson, and if you would, I'd like you to subscribe to my channel. Small channel, looking to grow, and want to provide more content. Normally I talk a little bit more about leadership, but I think the topic of focus has everything to do with leadership. Now there's 5 strategies. Now what I'm going to give you in these 5 strategies should and will help you gain more focus. It doesn't have to be just in a job. It can be in your life in general. So what are those 5 strategies? First, understand why you're losing focus. Second, we want to set the stage that you're working in, whatever that environment is. Home, office, on a job site, doesn't matter. 3, power of time blocking. 4, training your mind. And 5, protecting your energy. Now, why are these 5 strategies important? Well, for the most part, people lose focus in a heartbeat. First, when you think about understanding why we lose focus. 1, distractions. That's huge. We all know that. Doesn't matter what age you are. Doesn't matter if you're married or you have children. Something is going to distract you. Could be the TV. Could be the radio. Could be a child or grandchild. You sit down to work and something is going to distract you. And here's the kicker. Once you're distracted, most estimates say it takes 23 minutes to get back in focus. Second, dopamine. Why is dopamine important? Well, that's in your prefrontal cortex. You get this little release. Something spurts your energy. Maybe that day it's something political's going on. Maybe there's an important vote you're paying attention, or there's an important deadline. Something distracts you. And in that distraction, that dopamine fires and it gives you that high. And it takes you away from the focus on what you're currently tasked yourself to do. Now, here's a funny thing. I was just watching a video with 2 gentlemen I'm going to talk about. This first one's Andy Stumpf. I don't know the man personally. Retired Navy SEAL. Wrote a really good book called Drown Proof. I would encourage each and every one of you to go check that out. Andy Stumpf says it like it is. Yeah, he was a careerist. He's a retired Navy guy. But he has some pretty amazing thoughts and examples and probably research that he's done on his own that come up with these distractions, things that can affect you and make you lose focus. So next, setting the stage. Now, when we say setting the stage, I'm not saying play Bill, get up there and, you're going to say some kind of goofy lines over and over again for hours on end. Now, when I say set the stage, think about it. If you could see my desk right now, you'd be like, how in the world can you possibly focus? That's one of the key things that might cause us to lose focus. We're overstressed at that given point. Maybe we've got a deadline that's getting right in front of us and we feel like we're behind and our desk is cluttered. Well, every time that we think about how cluttered our desk is, it's taken our mindset away and our focus away from the task at hand. Obviously, phones. Phones are a massive, massive part of our lives today. And because we can multitask so aggressively on these phones, we might be sitting there typing up a proposal, or we might be just thinking about it and trying to come up with, the best way to move forward with this or to meet this deadline or this task at hand. And we see our phone light up. Maybe it was an email. Maybe it's a phone call. Maybe it's a social media message. Well, that distraction takes our mind off of the task at hand. You know, one of the most important things, I think, I did a video on journaling last and how it's important to sit down and write. Writing down your goals. If you're going to set the stage for how you want to accomplish this job or this task that you have in front of you, meet this deadline, maybe if that's the case, writing it out. You go ahead and you write out the goals to accomplish this task, or maybe you write out the goals that you want to achieve within the year, within the month, within the week, within the day. That helps you maintain focus. I mean, people that write down their goals have a 42% increase in their successes. Why? Because they write it down. They think about it, they write it down, and then that allows them to really achieve those goals, or, be much better at achieving those goals. Next, I want to talk about the power of time blocking. It kind of goes along with that topic. If you write down those goals and say you use a calendar, who doesn't use a calendar on their phone, on their desk? The desk is probably gone at this point. I did that a lot a couple decades ago, even writing on a calendar that I have on my wall up in the bedroom that I might put big ticket items. It doesn't deal with goal achieving, but it just keeps it in memory. Well, if you write down your goals, but let's say you put them on your calendar and you do it on your phone or on your computer, you set a reminder for yourself. The reminder reminds you of it. You see it. Every time you look at what's going on for the day or the week, maybe first thing in the morning if you do that, you see, oh yeah, I got to get this done by this time. It's going to increase your productivity. It's going to increase your capability of focusing on achieving that goal. Next is this really interesting concept I read about, and I've read quite a few things about it. Even watched a couple of videos called the Pomodoro Technique. And what's funny is I never knew about that before, but during my military career, I knew to do this in teaching or into doing classes. This Pomodoro Technique tells you work for 25 minutes and take a 5-minute break. If you focus all your effort on that 25 minutes and you only focus on that one thing, then at the end of that 25 minutes, take that 5-minute break. Your chances of speeding up the process of achieving that goal and maintaining your focus on that goal increases dramatically. Now, I didn't know it as that technique throughout my career, but I used a very similar, natural, common sense method of maintaining focus, even though I wasn't trained or didn't understand it. And, kind of thought that was interesting, but you ought to check out the Pomodoro Technique. Multitasking. I think all of us today, what happens? We multitask. We try to do more than one thing at one time. We try to focus in all these directions at the same time, and we tend to fail. We tend to maybe get stuck while we're trying to focus on one thing, but the other thing might be more important to us. That's in our mind. That's taken away our ability to focus on one thing at a time. And, definitely proven that 40% of people that try to multitask, have a higher failure rate on not meeting their goal or objective, and especially they can't maintain focus. So you really have to set back, and as you're blocking it out on the calendar, as you're using this 25 and 5 technique, you allow yourself to just focus on that one item at a time. Maybe the 25 and 5, the next 25 and 5 is the second one, the next 25 and 5 is the third one, but that 5 minutes in between, you get up, you move around. I'm going to talk more about that in here in a little bit. And you kind of reset your mind. You clear the gray matter, that frontal cortex, that's going to get that dopamine fire when you move on to the next task at hand. Well, instead of trying to think about 3 things at one time while you're focusing your effort on that one, you can move on those. That doesn't say it has to be in the same day. You could just break down those 25 and 5s, on one task in one day. It's however you want to design it. You're the one going to make your calendar. You're the one that's going to put the reminder in there to tell you what to do. So in that fourth part of training your mind, that ties right into that. This whole process, all these strategies, is training your mind on picking those things that you're required to accomplish, or those tasks, or those chores that you might have, those events with your kids or grandkids. Those one things, you picking that one thing to put all your focus in for however much time you've got to focus on it, is critical. You've got to train your mind to be able to only isolate into one area. You'll be much more successful. I'm not saying you can't multitask, but use that Pomodoro technique. Separate each task instead of trying to think about all three at the same time. Now, I think this is kind of interesting. I read a lot about it. I've heard a lot about it. I've probably done it a few times in my life, and that's when I was in therapy in the hospital for my amputation, is meditation. Now, that's kind of interesting for me. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it, but from everything I've researched and everything I've read and heard, meditation can be critical. Now, as a man, especially as a retired Marine, it might seem a little interesting, but I did yoga once, and that seems to be all the meditation that I thought of, and I know that's wrong, and I don't mean it that way, but meditation in that 5 minutes or on a daily basis can clear out that gray matter and allow you to refocus on what maybe the next task or the given task is. So don't throw it out. Check it out. Research it. Next, we got to protect our energy. That's probably critical to me. I left it till last because I think that's key. When you think about guarding your energy, that goes right along with your focus, your capability of focus. If you're tired, you didn't get enough sleep in the night, well, are you going to be able to focus? Think about it. Think about times that you've only slept a few hours in the night because you're anticipating maybe the next day or something that was in front of you, and you couldn't purely focus on the task at hand. I went through a school called Ranger School. I'm going to tell you right now, sleep and food deprivation was mainly what that school was for me. But I've seen people under extreme sleep deprivation. And I've experienced it more times than I can remember. Now, an irony of that is if you're sleep deprived, it's the same as being legally drunk. Well, if you've been legally drunk or you've deprived in sleep, could you accomplish something as well as you could if you were in a lucid state or in a, pure energy state? No, you couldn't have. There's no way. I've seen people walk up to trees in Florida phase and try to buy Cokes out of a machine because they're doing what we call droning, extreme sleep deprivation. Could they finish the task? Could they maintain focus? No, they couldn't. They couldn't. They were too deprived. They were basically legally drunk. Now, focus, purely physical. It's purely physical. And if you don't sleep well, eat well, stay hydrated, train your mind, you're not going to be able to maintain focus. Chances are your energy levels are going to be down and you're going to fail at the task that you want to accomplish. And then probably the biggest one, I'm going to lean in for this one, social media, something we all know about. Social media is probably the biggest distraction that the vast majority of us have in a day. Is that a good or a bad thing? If the distraction makes you lose focus, it's a bad thing. If the distraction helps you transition that 5 minutes in between focal points, maybe not. Can social media help you? Like this video. Can it give you ideas on when and when not to be distracted? And that's where that Andy Stumpf video that I'm going to put on the end of this, and he's on there with what's called the Huberman Lab, Andrew Huberman. And they talk about him and another SEAL named Chad Wright has a YouTube channel called 3 of 7 Project, where they're talking in their discussion about those two coming together, Andy and Chad, and trying to minimize their day on their phones down to 60 minutes and testing that theory and doing it for a shorter period of time and seeing if they can do it. And I'll post that video on the back end of this one. And I would encourage you to watch it for yourself. It's a very, very good video on Huberman Lab's channel, his podcast. And they really do talk about some amazing things that deal right in with focus and how to better yourself, how to clear your mind, all the things I've talked about today. So on those 5 strategies, understand why you're losing focus, set the stage, power of time blocking, training your mind, and protecting your energy. Those are the 5 strategies we have to have. Just remember, it's not physical, it's completely mental. But your physical aspect can take away from that. If you're physically not there, you will not maintain focus. And focus is a skill you can build. Now, if you like this video, I'd ask you to like it. Once again, if you would, please subscribe to my channel, Spanky Gibson Produces. If you want to follow me on X, Spanky Gibson 71. And I look forward to any comments, because I would ask you, if you believe this is a bunch of hooey, tell me it's a bunch of hooey. But if you think you can learn from this and research a little bit more for yourselves so that you can maintain that focus, please do that comment. Let me know what you think, and I'll get back to each and every one of you.